The ancient city of Myra has mainly disappeared due to earthquakes and the passage of time. However, the impressive rock tombs and Roman theatre remain. The city has existed for perhaps 3,000 years and was once so important that it minted its own currency. In the year 61 AD, St. Paul visited whilst on his way to Rome. The Lycians had a similar belief system to the Egyptians and put grave goods in their tombs, and so had problems with grave robbers. The tombs are carved to resemble houses, so that the departed would feel at home until their souls were taken to the afterlife. The Lycians believed that a flying creature would come down and collect their souls, which was partly the reason for locating the tombs high up on the cliffsides. The Church of St. Nicholas was once blessed by the last Tsar of Russia, Tsar Nicholas, and has since become a place of pilgrimage for many Russians. It is traditional for each pilgrim to purchase an icon. These are sold in many of the local shops. St. Nicholas is the man we now know as Santa Claus, and it is he who is said to deliver children's presents each 25th of December. Nicholas was a popular religious leader who did much to help the poor. He is said to have been born of a rich merchant family in 2045 AD and to have died in 343 AD. Nicholas is the patron saint of sailors and children. His connection with sailors dates back to the time of Emperor Constantine. 3 sailors had been convicted of a crime and were due to be executed, but Nicholas appeared to Constantine in a dream, pleading for mercy, so the emperor spared them. Nicholas's association with children and the giving of presents is due to his kind and generous nature. One day he overheard 3 young girls talking. They wished to be married, but could not afford trousseaux. One offered to have herself sold into slavery, so that the other 2 could be wed. To prevent this, when the first girl was to be married, Nicholas opened the door and threw in a bag of coins. He did the same for the second girl, but when the third was to be wed, it was icy cold, and the door was barred and the windows closed. So he climbed upon the roof and dropped a bag of coins down the chimney. They fell into a sock which was drying over the embers of the fire, and a legend was born. Kokova Island was once disputed over by both Turkey and Italy, but in 1932 it was awarded to Turkey. The island is uninhabited, but has the partly sunken ruins of a town on its northern side. Here the seabed is littered with ancient remains, and the area is a favourite with underwater archaeologists. Pamukkale is a World Heritage Site in the Taurus Mountains. Here hot springs spew out water with a high concentration of dissolved limestone. As the water evaporates, the limestone is left behind. Over millennia, this has created a wonderland of unique limestone terraces. To prevent damage, the visitor is required to walk barefoot. This can be a slow and painful experience, but at least the water flowing down the path is a warm 25 centigrade. Epaphus was a flourishing city dating back into the mists of time. It was abandoned when the harbour silted up, and it is now 6 kilometres from the sea. The abandoned city was then flattened by earthquakes. When first excavated, hardly anything was standing, but since then it has been extensively reconstructed. Going to the lavatory in Roman times was a communal event. You would sit and talk and drink wine. There was no toilet paper. A sea sponge on the end of a stick was used. The Library of Celsius was part library and part tomb. Celsius Polymenus was the proconsul, and the building was erected by his son following his death. When first discovered, the library was in ruins, but was reconstructed between 1970 and 1978. We are heading for the Turtle Beach, a 2.5 mile strip of golden sand. The beach is famous as a breeding ground for several kinds of turtle, the main one being the loggerhead. These giants lumber out of the sea in late spring and summer nights to lay their eggs. The Lycian tombs overlooking the Dalian River date from the 2nd century AD. They were the burial chambers for the kings and queens of the area. Aphrodisias is an ancient Greek city which is named after Aphrodite, who was the Greek goddess of love. The city was built close to a quarry and had a famous school of sculpture, which explains the abundance of fine statues in the museum. The stadium was used for athletic events until the theatre was badly damaged by an earthquake. Then it was used both as a stadium and also a theatre. It could hold around 30,000 spectators. This impressive monumental gateway led into a large forecourt in front of the temple of Aphrodite. The gateway dates back to 200 AD. Following the arrival of Christianity, the temple of Aphrodite became a Christian basilica. When Aphrodisias was excavated, the archaeologists were amazed at the number of statues they recovered. Many of the heads had become separated from the bodies. This was because heads were carved separately and were interchangeable. If you had a statue of an emperor or a senator who had gone out of favour, it was more cost-effective to remove the head and replace it. For this reason, there are more heads than bodies in the museum, and sometimes head and body are not in proportion.